All right, check. This is just a test, but I'm getting out all of my tools here just to see how this works out. I've got my GoPro set up. I've got a microphone over here. So in the event that this is a usable video, I'll go ahead and show you some things. So this is, I always keep this guy ready. I've had this for like, I don't know, 30 years now, this set. Just a few jeweler screws, screwdrivers, and a couple of needle nose. This is kind of like a blunt nose set. But these are the ones I usually get the most use out of. They're actually a little bit more needle nosed. But when you're working with small stuff, that's critical. What else do I keep in my bag? Well, there's my iron. Sorry, I didn't straighten up or anything. A rag, some wire cutters, hot glue gun, flux, solder. This guy is awesome. It holds, it's got clips on it that hold things in place for you. And then, some more stuff. There's a set of hemostats in here. Those are handy. So they, you can clamp on something. Thus the term hemostat, if you're familiar with those. A solder sucker. So this guy, the plunger's still down. I push the plunger, and then I press this button here with my thumb on it. And what it does is, this is basically just a syringe, a spring-loaded syringe. So whenever I press this button, that shoots back up, and the plunger sucks up solder in here. You can replace these bits as they wear out, but typically when you're removing old solder, this thing is a lifesaver. Totally worth it. Not that you can really see down in there, but yeah, this guy, you don't burn your fingers or get all that old solder. When it's time to clean up, it just magically disappears. Some strippers, wire strippers, so I can take off the jacket. Some more wire cutters, another set of wire cutters, crimpers. These are some Gimplers I've had. Geez, I've probably had these for, good grief, probably closer to 40 years now. I've been doing this a while. This is an old strobe tester. If I clamp this on to something, I don't know, let's see if this battery's any good. So I'm going to touch the tip to one side, the alligators to the other end of it, and it's not enough to turn this on. There's a little light bulb in there that'll glow. Try it the other way just to see. I think this is a dead battery, yeah. But anyhow, that's just a quick tester. You can use it on like car batteries, wall sockets, just whatever. Just a couple of conventional screwdrivers, and then some zip ties and other junk that's gotten in here. My flux brush. Okay, so there. Now you can see what's in my solder bag. There's a little magnifying glass that goes to this. I don't know where it is, but I'm getting now to where I actually start to use magnifying glasses more, because my eyes are just shot. But anyhow, that's what all I have in here. I'm going to put away stuff that's unnecessary. This guy is super useful, because that third hand tool. I always keep some of these too with my tester when I'm testing things. It's really handy to be able to clip, to check continuity. So of all this stuff, I'm going to pare it down to something that I really advise. You probably already have, screwdrivers. So if I were just starting off right now, I didn't have any of this stuff, first thing I would do is go out and buy a soldering iron, some solder, and some flux. this is the big secret that no one ever told me about when I started doing this. Holy cow, that's the trick right there. Essentially, this makes the solder really want to pull in to wherever you're soldering. It's sort of a catalyst here. You can solder without that, but man, that's all the difference in the world. So these are the three things. You can go buy soldering kits, and even just a cheap iron and all this stuff and get you going. It takes a long time to go through solder. I don't even recall buying buying that. Anyhow, so if I was just getting into this, I would definitely get those. Some strippers. Ideally some cutters. Now the strippers already have cutters built on, but they're not the greatest cutters. So if you're doing a lot of cutting, a decent set of cutters, and the strippers, you see the holes are all different sizes here. So that lets you strip all these different gauges of wire. And yeah, if you're good on that, then probably a third hand tool. Now, before I bought a third hand tool, I would ensure that I have this, which is just a multimeter tester. You can get them for like 15-20 bucks, a decent little tester. And largely, the thing I use it for almost exclusively, is continuity testing. So this way I know that if I've done a good job on my soldering, I can put this at one end of the wire and this at the other end, and it should get a feed. So like here is just a cable. If I go to one end, it's the red one. I'm going to pull up the other end of that red one. Hey, it's a good wire. And it should be a good wire because that's my testing wire, right? So occasionally you need to test your tester. Yeah, so that's the gist of my kit. Now, one thing you might be wondering, I didn't mention this rag here. So when you're soldering, or soldering, however you want to say it, you're occasionally going to get too much solder up here, and you'll need to wipe it off. Maybe putting a little moisture on this is a good idea, or not. Usually, I used to always keep this damp, but anymore it's dry. I just go with it and wipe off that excess solder as I'm going. The soldering irons themselves, the tips are changeable on most decent soldering irons. So you pull this guy out, and depending on what kind of soldering you're doing, you might want to change the tip. I only solder enough to be a weekend warrior, so I don't bother with having a bunch of different tips around. But if I were going to be doing some really sensitive stuff like on PC boards, all that kind of thing, you really want to make sure you've got a fine tip and probably a variable temperature on your soldering iron. That way you don't melt the board. And I don't know, the internet could tell you more than I can right now, but you can get all different types of solder as far as like the melting temperature, the different uses, does it acid core or is it not, and what's the best iron and iron setting to use with, etc., etc. But for most of the stuff that I do is like wiring up mic cables. This right here gets the job done. I don't even know what wattage this guy is. I've had it so long. They make these soldering irons with a trigger. I don't really advise those. It's just one thing to go bad, and plus you have to sit there and hold this trigger for a while it heats up. They may have improved them since my day, but I just have one of these. When it's time to solder, I plug it up. You wait like 2 or 3 minutes. It's hot enough, and it just stays hot at the ready. I don't have my holder. They make a spring thing that basically you stick this in and it holds it while you're working. I have long since lost my holder, so I usually just end up setting it down like that, which is not the safest thing, but hey. Alright, so yeah, I think that's way too long for what I've said already.